Good morning. Welcome to, I'm trying to adjust my ears, I apologize. Welcome to the Thursday, November 14th, open session for the Carroll County Commissioners. Commissioner Rothstein is with MACO for, I think, a 2-day board retreat. So he's representing us there, not here. And we just talked, we don't get a portion of his pay or anything because we're covering for him, right?
That's correct, but we have to keep in mind that we're representing him, and we may not be able to represent him that well if we're not getting his pay.
Okay, and as always, we'd like to start with Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll see if it works. I actually prayed for focus, so we'll see how that.
Well, you've got three of us here to judge you on that. Find out.
Yeah. Okay. Priority, Carol, I think we start this side.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a busy week, so I will only touch on a couple of things. Saturday evening, I attended the 20th anniversary dinner of MREC, the Marriage Resource Education Center, which strives to help people build healthy relationships and marriages. That organization has continued to grow, having started here in Carroll County, both in membership and in other states, and promoting what is the core foundation of society, and that is marriage. Senator Justin Reedy, State's Attorney Haven Shoemaker, and Board of Education member Steve Whistler and Board of Education member-elect Greg Malveaux were also present at the dinner. And this is important to note because our members of Board of Education were there because this group does work with students in the county's schools, helping to set them up for healthy and successful relationships and marriage in the future. Monday, I attended the Veterans Day event at the American Legion Hessen-Snyder Post 120 in Taneytown, where Commander Kate Irwin oversaw another beautiful ceremony honoring our veterans and underscoring just how crucial those who have served have been to the freedom that we enjoy. And for those like myself who have not served, it's a reminder that we must always strive to live as rightly as we can to ensure that we have a nation worthy of defending. And to my fellow commissioners who have served, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. My fellow commissioners and I also attended a meeting with the Community College Board of Trustees to learn more about what they plan for the future under their new president, Rose Mintz, and how the college is looking to adapt to changing circumstances. They too are impacted by things like the economy and blueprint mandates from the state, and we, as well as they, worry about budgets. Nevertheless, the community college is a phenomenal school, and it's ranked, I think, as the second best community college in the entire state. So that's certainly saying something about what we offer here. I had the pleasure also this week of co-hosting a virtual Public Service Commission public hearing with Judge Jennifer Grace regarding proposed solar development at the intersection of 482 and Cape Horn Road. I also spoke in opposition to that project, citing the importance of community, local control zoning, and the opposition from our citizens to that project. There will be an in-person meeting or hearing regarding that in the coming months, and we'll publish details about that very soon. Let's see, I skipped that one, and I'll get right to last evening. My fellow commissioners and I attended the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Public Meeting at the Ag Center hosted by PSEG here in Westminster, which is the second of 3 meetings that PSEG is hosting regarding that project. As expected, PSEG demonstrated their continued contempt for the citizens of our county by refusing to answer many critical questions, deflecting on others, and simply refusing to respond to some questions at all. The citizens who were there were very well informed, very well versed, and prepared to meet PSEG on every part of their plan, and understandably, people were passionate. And for me, I'm really, really aggravated with PSEG. How dare they lecture citizens about their tone while they're threatening to take the land from these citizens? I think it's utter disrespect from a company that wants to put down power lines, pick up a paycheck, and move on. They have no idea who we are. They have no idea what our community is like, and it's clear that they don't care. And so I, along with my fellow commissioners, continue to stand with our citizens here in Carroll and in Frederick and Baltimore counties against the MPRP, and will never stop opposing it. Last night, they cut off citizens who had signed up to speak. At a certain point, they said, we're not going to take any more public comments. They may have refused to let everyone speak last night and be heard. Unlike us, when we had our public hearing back in the summer, we let everybody who wanted to speak. PSEG may have refused to hear everybody last night, but please understand that we commissioners hear you. Our delegation hears you. And when this gets to the Public Service Commission, we will make sure that the PSC hears all of you as well. And that's it for me this morning, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gordon?
Thank you. As Commissioner Vigliotti mentioned, we've been a bit busy to say the least, but that's typical for all of us. Last week, we had the Land Trust dinner. Commissioner Kyler, Commissioner Vigliotti, you weren't there this year, were you?
I was somewhere else.
That's correct. You were somewhere else that night. The two of us were there, though, but I know we also had Delegate Tomlinson. Always a great opportunity to meet with the families and the applicants that have put property into AgPres. Want to thank J.P. Smith and staff for doing what they do best, and it was very nice to interact with the Carroll County Land Trust, which is a nonprofit organization that helps and assists on a variety of things with ag in the community. And there were two noted members of the community that were honored that night, one being former head of AgPres in Carroll County government, Ralph Robertson, and the other being former Commissioner Donald Dell. And it was nice to see the entire Dell family turn out. That was quite a treat to see all of them, and it was great to see him. And as always, very appreciative of everybody involved with County AgPres. Veterans Day, we had the first in 187 years in Westminster, the first Veterans Parade ever. That was quite the event. Myself, Mayor Becker, Councilman Chiavaci, and a number of other members of the community were part of the initial ribbon cutting for that. We also had Brigadier General Reed Novotny as the honorary Grand Marshal, and Ed Sterrett was there as well. He was to cut the ribbon. Very large turnout for that. Was very nice to see the community turn out and support that, and I think the coming years of that will just show even more participation, but I think there was probably around 90 vehicles or so. Carroll County Public Library was one of the participants, as well as a wide array of other community organizations and veterans group.
Which one of you safely handled the big scissors?
Well, I had them, and then I made sure that they got back here. So
That was the extent of your responsibility.
yes, they were under security detail while we had them out of the building. But and then as Commissioner Vigliotti mentioned, we had the breakfast meeting with the community college. I thought that was a wonderful opportunity to speak with them and just have good dialogue like we always do with all the various organizations and entities we interact with, and looking forward to seeing what we may come up with in the new year as we move forward with them. Yesterday morning, there was a veterans breakfast at the hospital. That was a very well-attended event. There was probably about 100 or so people, and I think about maybe 2/3, if not more, of the room were veterans. So it was fantastic to see our veterans turn out as they always do, and just very appreciative to see them and hear some of the stories. And a woman who was quite shocked yesterday. She does an amazing job. She makes quilts for veterans that are in hospice. So she goes completely out of her way. It's all on her own dime. No one else is assisting in this. And they honored her and recognized her, and I know she was not comfortable with it, but truly impressive to see, veterans that are, on that last part of their life being greatly appreciated by the community as a whole, and just truly appreciating, whether it be veteran to veteran or just caregiver to veteran, the interactions and care for them. As Commissioner Vigliotti mentioned, last night was the PSEG meeting here at the Ag Center. I guess probably the word I'd use best to describe it would be disappointment, if not disturbing. It was very interesting to watch some of the interactions from the folks from PSEG. The timetable of this project, to me, is absolutely out of question and ludicrous, because we have redevelopment projects in our very own county for the same usage, and it takes multiple years, yet this is believed to be accomplished in such a fast time frame. I appreciate everybody for turning out. I think there was, maybe 1,000 or so people. It was quite the turnout, but I think the one thing, and we've all said this at some point, everybody has individual property rights, so if anybody chooses to make a decision one way or another, we understand that. But I think the one thing that's so very important, it was mentioned numerous times last night, they need to have this opportunity to get people included for them to move forward with this project. And there was a lot of very interesting dialogue last night from the public, not a lot of answers from PSEG, which I was exceptionally disappointed with. Even the easiest questions couldn't be answered. People had asked about when they spoke to elected officials, and even for those of us sitting up here, we knew nothing about it. We pretty much found out when everybody else did. I find that so frustrating that questions are asked, but they're never answered. They asked about the airport last night and how they've been interacting with the FAA, but anybody that knows what's going on in Carroll County knows we've been working on our airport and that project for some time, but yet they want to act like this is something that can be resolved with no issues, but yet they haven't spoken to the FAA. So felt very disingenuous, for lack of any other way to put that. But
Yes.
We shall see. Obviously, this is not by any means the end, and while they might have a route picked, I don't think this is going to be the final route, if it's going to even be the final project. So we shall see. But that's all for me right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Garin.
Yeah, good morning, Carroll County. I hope everybody's doing well. For people who know me, I've got a permanent smile on my face for the past week and a half, and it just gets better every single day. I attended a couple events last night, and I want to take my Priority Carroll opportunity to thank the staff. At 5 o'clock last night, the president of the town council of Mount Airy, the mayor of Mount Airy, individuals from the citizen services here for the county and the public works, we met with Mount Airy's Coalition on Aging and Livability at 5 o'clock at the Mount Airy Senior Center, and had a really great meeting on what the senior center's requirements are moving forward. And so I want to thank everybody who attended that meeting. I want to thank the citizens that attended that meeting. It was very productive. And I think it highlights the fact that if you want to solve a problem, the first thing you have to do is figure out what the requirements are, what needs to be done, and then you figure out how. So I feel like that meeting accomplished that. And I just want to thank the staff for their support last night in Mount Airy for that. And then at 7 o'clock last night, we shifted over to a virtual Public Service Commission meeting regarding the Spring Valley Solar Project, not a farm, a project. And again, I want to thank the staff, and I also am very proud of the citizens and the residents of that area. They have not given up, they have not walked away, and every time they have an opportunity to get in front of elected officials or judges in a virtual meeting or otherwise, they are 100% prepared, 100% prepared, right on the money, concise. And we all recognize that up here, and we appreciate it, but we can only hope that elected officials throughout the state do as well. And we're about to find out real soon on a variety of different issues. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the staff for their support in those two events last night. That's why I wasn't at the MPRP meeting, but I think that we all probably predicted how that was going to go. So I'm getting some feedback on that, and I appreciate some of the information you've passed on. And then lastly, yes, Monday was Veterans Day. A lot of veterans in the county. Once again, Mount Airy put on a terrific celebration. I wasn't able to attend it. However, they did have an A-10 flyover. So I'm not sure if that sort of sets the bar pretty high, I think,
Yeah,
for
it
some
does.
veteran celebrations. And hopefully most of the people in Mount Airy knew that was about to happen, because when it did happen, there were some people a little bit surprised. But that is a sound of freedom, my folks. When you have A-10s rolling over your town, that is what you want to hear. So that is all for me this morning. Thank you.
Well, now I know what Westminster needs for the parade next year. Thank
That
you.
you do. Get something up in the air. And
Thank you. And I don't usually do a lot of pictures. I did some photos, and I guess I'll talk and you flip up some photos. The first thing I want to talk about, Sunday was the Maryland chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame banquet. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought I had this silenced. Maryland Wrestling Hall of Fame banquet in Annapolis, and as anybody's inducted there, you're posted in Stillwater with a plaque and a photo and some things. So it's a pretty big deal. And I want to talk about, that's on the right, that's me walking in at the beginning. We call it the Green Jacket Walk. And all
It
the
must be a big deal. You're in a tux.
Yes. And it fit.
That,
Yeah, I think I've got a skinny tux and a fat tux, and the fat tux fit. That the picture on the left, that is Todd Beckerman and his parents. He went to DeMatha, wrestled for Nebraska, two-time All-American, coached at Maryland, coached at Brown, and he's the same age as my middle son. So both sons and he wrestled together. My middle son and Todd were invited to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs as, I forget, 10th graders for the World Cadet team. And so we've had a lot of interaction with him. It was really special to see him get inducted. He's living in Rhode Island. He's not coaching college anymore. And we got to also meet his wife and other family members. So that was pretty nice. And then we had an outstanding American and 5 service to wrestling award winners, inductees. The other one I want to mention is Art Blake. Art wrestled at Western Maryland College, now McDaniel. His wife attended there, and at the same time, I was in Washington College, and my wife was working at Western Maryland, so we knew them back then. He passed this year. His one son's one of the coaches at Francis Scott Key and was a coach at McDaniel. So, again, local ties. And it was really nice to see and talk to all of them there. So a great event, and it's just a great event. And like a lot of annual events, you see people there you don't see the whole rest of the year. We already mentioned the Land Trust dinner, and I have a photo. There was a bunch more photos taken that evening. This is the one I currently have, but that's past Commissioner Donald Dell, who, Roberta, you can correct me, he served 3 terms, and Julia Googe, who served 4 or 5.
At least 4.
4, yeah, more than he did, as I remember, before term limits, and then they let the 2 commissioners stand with them and took a photo. It was interesting to see them, and then we also did photos with all the different farms that were taken into Ag Pres in the last year. Got a lot of great families, great stuff, and there were a lot of Dells there. They did a video, and the video seemed to indicate more than real life with the Dell family. I think every Dell in the video's first name started with a G. That's not the whole family, but that's evidently a lot of them. So that was a great night. Veterans Day, I went to Castell, and there's a photo on the left is Junior Fisher, which every veteran seems to know. I think he's going to live to be like 125 just to irritate all of us. Great guy, and past Commissioner Dick Weaver was there. His grandchildren, Chris's, I believe 2 daughters, go there, and it was just another great event. And Olivia Dance interviewed me. I don't know that if ever, I think I ended up on the cutting room floor. There she is interviewing some of the students before she talked with me. But I did sit next to Junior Fisher, and she seemed to, her cameraman really liked him. So I was on TV as sitting next to Junior while he was talking. So great event. Students, the middle school students primarily orchestrated it. And it was just so great to see students, young students, walking around thanking veterans, talking to them. They give a Veteran of the Year, and a Marine got it that was awesome, and his daughter goes there. So it's so nice to see. And there's so many events, the parade, other events at schools, and this is the one I decided to go to this year, and it was awesome. We mentioned the Carroll Community College breakfast / meeting, and that was a great presentation from them, great discussion, back and forth. They wanted input from us and thoughts from us on their strategic plan and some things they're working on, and that's great. I had my Ag Center board meeting, which is always great, and talked to a diverse group there, from the fair group to 4-H to the Ag Center. Commissioner Rothstein and I were invited to attend the ceremony for the Veterans Court in Baltimore City, which our state's attorney and our judges have been working on for probably 2 years to get Carroll County involved in it. Evidently, there was an article in the paper about it, and I think they're doing more of a press release, and maybe Ethan Reese is even doing an article on it. So you'll see more of how much that affects us. Roberta, does that cost us anything?
Not a thin dime, as I quote the State's Attorney Shoemaker from today's article.
Yeah, and what
So
it does.
I think that means no.
Yes, and what it does is it could get a veteran off our docket and down there where they would have a mentor and their families involved, and it's similar to the drug court. And so Commissioner Rothstein isn't here. He always asks that, what's it cost the county? And that makes this even more awesome. Yesterday, Economic Development did some visits with various businesses. I went to Goose Ridge Soap and Outlaw Barbecue and Rocco's, and it was they all got a small business certificate and did some photo ops, and it was great to see them. It's awesome what these different small businesses in Carroll County do. And I want to mention, yeah, there we are at Outlaw Barbecue, and then we cross the street. My hardest choice was which side of the street I would get a sandwich from, and I worked something out. But just great, and Economic Development works with and communicates with the small businesses, and it's very effective. I want to mention one business actually moved that we were going to visit, but the other, I want to mention Ridge Engineering briefly. That was originally on the tour and taken off, and I'm not sure if this is why, but Bud Tracy, their founder, passed about a week ago. I think they're doing a celebration of life tomorrow, and it's just such a great story for Carroll County. Here's somebody, and I hear two versions. I don't know whether he started in his garage or basement or maybe both, but he started at his house and moved on to Main Street, Hampstead, then built on 482 and is now built off of Route 30 near you going past the car wash. And he's just such a humble person who, and it was interesting. I did some work for Northrop Grumman, and they found out I was from Carroll County. So they go, "Do you know Ridge Engineering?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, why?" And what they told me, if we want to be on the short list for a government contract, particularly planes and stuff, we make sure we list them as a sub, because their detail and what they do, that gets us on the short list by using them. And I just think that's awesome. And they're adding employees in Carroll County. They're growing. It's just, I wanted to mention that, and Bud Tracy and the loss to the community. PSEG, we all mentioned, and that was a great night last night. I like to exaggerate, so I'll say there were over 1,000 there. It maybe wasn't quite, but it was a large crowd. They all spoke, and we've covered that some of them didn't get to speak. I know Kenny Miller, who's retired now from Miller's, store in Manchester. It runs right through his property, and Kim Frock, that used to work in the county, she was one of the 3 people first in line to get in and wasn't allowed to speak. And that's a shame. I think, easy for me to say, but if they could have stayed another hour and let everybody speak, I think it would have been a better look. But nicely put. I don't know if they care. I think they checked off the box that they had a town hall, and that was what was most important to them. And I think they're going to find out that bullies aren't well received in Carroll County. And the last thing I want to mention is the solar hearing. Commissioner Guerin mentioned that, and he was on that. We had 20 people on it. We had Judge Grace, the same judge you had, who did an awesome job, was very, no offense, was as informal as you see an attorney get. You know, it was kind of refreshing. But she did a good job. We had 20 people on it. I think 9 or 10 spoke. And like you said, they're very well prepared, and they're not, to me, it doesn't come off as, I don't want anything in my backyard. It's concrete reasons why these projects are unacceptable on ag. And I think they heard us. Now, the Public Service Commission, I don't have a lot of faith in. They seem to be approving almost every one possible, but it was good, and technically I co-hosted, but in reality, both of us did. You know, we spoke to open, we spoke to close, and we could have spoken in the middle if we wanted to. So it was very good. The week of, I'm not sure. Oh, the week of December 9th, I think, there will be a public meeting someplace in, or maybe it's in January.
I believe it's
thought
in January, Commissioner. We'll get you the exact date.
Yeah, the
for
week
next
of
week.
January. They're looking for a place, and they want the location as close as possible to the proposed community solars. So, which makes sense. So that will be announced. And you're right, they did say January. So that's coming up. We'll have more. They do a virtual hearing, a live hearing that you can also be on virtually if you choose, that's in the community, and then they do evidentiary stuff and make a decision. So it's a long process. And do you think, are any in Carroll County going to be decided this year? You think they'll all be January?
No, I don't believe any of them would be decided this year.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are technically uncontested.
Yeah. So, and the county attorney was on, and also this is one of the 2 that we have an outside attorney representing, and he was on it.
Yes, Andrew Meehan was on there. He doesn't say much at these hearings because they're for the public, but he'll get involved later in the nitty-gritty stuff.
Yes. So, and I want to thank the citizens who spoke. They did a great job, and thank the judge for running a good show. I think we were an hour and 5 minutes maybe, and it ran well. So that finishes me, and Commissioner Gordon's going to talk about National Apprenticeship Week.
Well, before I start that, if you 3 gentlemen don't mind, I'd like you to indulge me for a quick minute. Chris, can you put the pictures up from last night that I had sent you? So here's a quick photo of part of the crowd last night for everybody. Obviously, there was room within those seats, but quite farther back, there were, as we said, hundreds of chairs. And then if you could just kind of scroll through then, Chris. And here we have some of our various speakers. 2 of the youngest speakers, if not, I think the youngest speakers last night were up front near me at one point, worried about their chickens and other livestock that they're helping raise at their property. So as we've all said this morning, it was a county-wide group. There were people that don't own farms that were there. There were people that obviously come from generational farms. And I just wanted to bring this up again this morning. I know we've all kind of talked about it a little bit from what occurred last night. But it's very, I guess, confusing and sometimes incredibly disheartening when you put a property in perpetuity that it will not be utilized for a project to then be told that they're going to run a power line through it.
And the property owner themselves couldn't do that.
Correct. The property owner, once we put a property in AgPres, if you own it, you cannot use it for anything but AgPres or residing there. So you couldn't have a building on the property, say with an auto body shop or any other kind of usage. It's strictly for ag. And, the belief has always been it's in perpetuity, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we were all told a few weeks ago in an update about the potential solar projects where they would allow solar on ag that is not in AgPres, but then the county would receive potential funding on a limited basis that would then be utilized for the potential purchase of other ag properties. So we can't put an easement on an easement if it's in AgPres for a solar panel, but somehow strangely we're allowing to be able to be put an easement on AgPres to put a large tower and run power lines. Very counterintuitive and I think quite hypocritical, to be honest. A lot of questions that I know the public has. And I just wanted to bring this up again real quick this morning for one reason. I know back in August 22nd, all of us were out at the Ag Center with the public. We had the entire delegation as well as Senator West and Delegate Stanko from 42C. At that event, all of us, including the delegations, had mentioned that they completely are against this project. And I know we've all had numerous phone calls, emails, comments made in a variety of other fashions on social media and so forth. And, we can't reach everybody, and sometimes there's still people that miss hearing that fact. And I just wanted to bring this up this morning because while this would be something that we would do just to put that out a little further, and yes, it doesn't necessarily stop the project, what I'd like to do this morning is put this out there in a much more formalized way. So for anybody in the public that's not aware of this for some reason, what I would like to do this morning is I make a motion that the Board of Carroll County Commissioners request that our county attorney and staff draft a resolution stating condemning the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project and any usage of eminent domain for this project, and also to ask the PSC to reject the MPRP project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? And so this is saying we're against it,
Yes.
and we're asking PSC and others, but we're not limiting what we do. Again,
Correct.
we're talking to the governor, we're potentially talking to congressmen.
And we'll talk to all of those as we've all
So we
discussed.
continue all
Correct.
that. This is just,
I'm just asking that we formalize this because for some reason, and I'm not criticizing the public, but there definitely are individuals at times that still kind of feel like we haven't made the statement.
Yep.
So I just want to formalize this completely and make that statement very blunt,
any comment?
positive.
I'm completely in agreement with that. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now,
So
yeah, don't cover that up. We
While
still
we're,
got to talk about
while we're
that.
on this topic, should I wait for open admin to bring my thing up, or should I bring it up now?
I would
What's-
say open admin,
Okay.
you're asking it to be scheduled in the future,
Okay,
so
all right.
that's appropriate.
So stay tuned for more news about what
Exactly.
we're going to do with MPRP.
So if you're watching,
Open
you
admin.
are going to have to stay for open admin
Yep, stay
today.
tuned.
Can't say enough nice things about that project.
No. So today we have a proclamation and ask everyone to come on up.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Have a number of our wonderful county staff here with us today. Do you want to talk about a little bit of this, or would you
Sure,
like?
yeah,
us-
we can. Good morning, Denise Beaver, Director of
Morning.
Economic Development. And with me is Stan White, who's our Operations and Resource Manager at the Carroll County Workforce Development Center, and Scott Singleton, who is our business consultant. And I want to thank you for taking the time today to recognize Apprenticeship Week. We feel apprenticeship is a really valuable way to serve the pipeline and build the pipeline of workers for our local businesses, as well as provide great career opportunities for job seekers. So Apprenticeship Week is nationally recognized. It's the 10th anniversary, and it will be next week. And we're very active in the Workforce Center to build the local coalition of all of the different partners to continue to encourage businesses to adopt apprenticeship as a way to train their workforce. I talked to Bill Eccles a couple weeks ago, and our partners at the Carroll County Public Schools. He's the supervisor of career and technology services at Carroll County Public Schools, and they have about 14 active apprenticeships, youth apprenticeships in the school system, and he expects next semester to have another 7 or 8. And Stan can talk a little bit about some of the other activity. And Scott's very instrumental in pulling together all of the partners that are working on apprenticeship. I mean, we work with the Department of Labor and Carroll Community College and the school system and all of the other partners, along with the businesses, obviously, to develop these apprenticeships. So thank you for taking the time this morning to recognize that this is happening next week. And, you know, it just continues to build awareness about apprenticeship as a viable tool to build the workforce. So, Stan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Throughout the county, we have 100 open apprenticeships available. We currently have apprenticeships with, for example, with Heidelberg, to a company like Celebrity, where they're training future teachers, to Mudgett's Auto Body. So the idea of bringing apprenticeships into the county is we also have traditional apprenticeships and youth apprenticeships. So training our future workforce, putting them in positions that are high paying and will allow them to live here, grow here, and be a better part of the community. Scott Singleton really leads our apprenticeship committee with our partners, Carroll Community College, Carroll County Public Schools, Maryland Department of Labor. So I want to turn it over to Scott to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, Stan. Good morning, Commissioners. What we hear a lot in our interaction with businesses and HR directors is skills gap. We hear that often. You know, it's just they find candidates and they're lacking the qualifications that are needed to do the job. And obviously, we all know there's a labor shortage. It's just the labor market and the lack of candidates that are out there. Well, the apprenticeship program is the solution for our employers, for our businesses, and it cuts across all industries, and it allows for great career pathways for young people as well as experienced workers. It's been a tried and true program, and we often think about the electrical or plumbing or HVAC or masonry. But again, it can cut through everything, including healthcare, IT, education, government. So we're excited to share the apprenticeship opportunity with our local businesses and employer organizations, and we thank you for this proclamation this morning.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, if there's a business that wants to reach out to you all to get involved in that process, what's the easiest way to do so?
I suggest they call Scott.
Okay.
And then he has, again, this group of partners with the Department of Labor and the school system and the college and all of those partners that meet regularly. In fact, they hosted a meeting last night for businesses where they talked about, you know, these opportunities. So I would say, you know, reach out to them.
Are the apprenticeships paid, not paid, or some of both?
I think typically paid.
The apprenticeship program is different than some of our other programs where it's required that the participant is paid while they do this at the prevailing wage for that particular position.
So it's a win-win.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to go ahead and read this. So we have National Apprenticeship Week. Whereas National Apprenticeship Week is celebrating its 10th anniversary of raising awareness of the vital role registered apprenticeship provides in creating opportunities by allowing apprentices to earn while they learn and prepare a pathway to well-paying careers in Carroll County and across the nation. And registered apprenticeship programs offer high-quality, affordable career pathway, enabling businesses to develop, train, and retain their workforce. With the availability of tax credits and tuition benefits, employers can build a highly skilled workforce that enhances productivity and profitability, ultimately promoting business growth. And Carroll County recognizes the role of registered apprenticeship in expanding opportunities in our workforce that are inclusive of individuals who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequity, thus providing a path for all qualified individuals to become apprentices and contribute to America's industries. And Carroll County acknowledges that registered apprenticeship is an effective industry-driven training model essential for enhancing job quality, providing access to well-paying, family-sustaining jobs for everyone, particularly youth and young adults. This program also addresses some of the nation's urgent workforce challenges, such as rebuilding infrastructure, addressing critical supply chain demands, supporting a clean energy workforce, modernizing cybersecurity responses, and responding to care economy issues. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 17th, 2024 through November 23rd, 2024 as National Apprenticeship Week, adopted this 14th day of November 2024, signed the Board of Carroll County Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. So this is one of my favorite topics. And if anybody's ever watched the show Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe, he's one of my favorite people on the planet, and I can't get enough of him when he's on Fox News and his podcasts. And having 3 kids just going through the public school system right now, my youngest will graduate from South Carroll this year. Although they weren't involved in apprenticeship programs, they were up at the Carroll Tech Center and doing some things there. And having seen some of my kids' friends now going through some of the trade schools, I know it's not particularly your program per se, but it's heartwarming, and I see these young men and women around Mount Airy, and I just couldn't be more proud of them for what they're doing. And I'm so glad that we've moved on from this mentality of, well, college is not for everybody. Okay, we all know by now that a college education that is not focused and done appropriately can be a complete waste of money. We all know that now. So that's one of the greatest things we've seen in our culture, I think, over the past maybe 5 or 10 years, particularly driven by the fact that there are so many openings for people who are skilled, means that your work is just so valuable. And anything we can do up here to assist further, please let us know, because I feel as though this is one of the most important topics in our country right now, because when you give people these skills and they can immediately enter the workforce, they can immediately start earning money, they can start raising families, they can do whatever they want with it. It's just a better society, as opposed to people going off to college who maybe shouldn't be there, and they're now in debt. I mean, there couldn't be a bigger black and white on this. I mean, there's total opposite ends of the spectrum. One of them works, and one of them might not, and if it doesn't work for you, you're in big trouble. So again, thank you for everything you're doing. I'm really appreciative that you were here for in front of us this morning, and thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
And I think it's awesome what you do, and I always like to interject. I love Carroll County. You mentioned Mike Rowe. He's I can't remember his Kenwood. He's East Baltimore guy.
It is Baltimore.
He's from
And
Baltimore County.
one of his early jobs was doing commercials for Martin K.P. Hill.
I didn't know that.
And so he has a Maryland and a Carroll County connection. It's really interesting.
I think that what you do is phenomenal. Like Commissioner Guerin said, degree does not necessarily mean that you know what you're doing, or you're going to have the skills to do the job. When I went through high school, college, and for several years afterwards, I worked with my dad doing home improvement, construction, landscaping for 11 years. And the idea being, the economy was horrible at the time, but I also wanted to make sure that I had a physical trade that I could fall back on if my time in college didn't pan out. And thank God I did, because at this point now, there are things I can do myself that I don't have to hire somebody to do. But at the same time, again, 10 years from now, wherever my life is, I have something to fall back on, because I apprenticed with my dad for 11 years. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
So if your books don't sell, I could get you to do the basement or something?
I can frame walls, I can do just about everything. There's actually very little over the course of 11 years I haven't done.
Any more comments?
I'll just piggyback a little bit on everyone's comments. One, appreciate everything you all do. I appreciate all the local businesses that are involved in this. And, to Commissioner Garen's point, and I think, and this is not taking away from higher education and college, but, years ago, my dad asked someone in the school system, and I'm not being at all negative towards the school system, a question. What about those that either don't have an interest in college, or we need people in those other positions? Because, everybody can't work in IT, everybody can't have certain types of careers, but we need all those other people. We need people that are good in trades. We need all these individuals that can, work from the foundation up of how our country and our county survives. And I just think it's absolutely fantastic that we have this sort of an opportunity for people to get their hands and get right into it and really be able to make this work, and appreciate everything you all do. So thank you.
Picture? Take a picture? Photos?
Yeah.
Photo time. We need theme music.
That could be arranged.
Sorry, no worries. Thank you.
Don't forget your cell phone. Yeah. Take care.
And as we end Priority Carol, I don't think I mentioned, but we did mention the Land Trust dinner, but at the same time, Rec and Parks did their Hall of Fame and Volunteer of the Year ceremony at Charles Carroll. And if one things I think we learn as a commissioner, you can't do everything, but there was no way to be at both, but two great events, both the same evening. And I want to thank Rec and Parks for doing that.
Absolutely.
And it's good there's 5 of us, because we can, between the 5 of us, I think we have a pretty good spread about what we cover.
Yeah, we try to cover. Okay, next item up, proposed amendments for Chapter 158, Solar Energy Generating Systems, and this is the public hearing. Would you like to tell us what a public hearing is?
Yes, Commissioner, the public hearing is being held right now, and the purpose of the public hearing is to elicit any public comment on a proposed amendment to Chapter 158 of our code regulating solar energy generating systems. The notice of the public hearing was advertised in the Carroll County Times on October 25th of this year, as well as Halloween, October 31st of this year. With us are some folks from the Department of Planning and Land Use Development. Our director is here, Chris Hine. Brenda Denny is here as well, and Hannah Weber are here. They would like to give you a brief synopsis of the proposal and answer any questions you may have.
And Commissioners, I think we have a caller on, and if anybody's here to make public comment, there's cards in the back. Please fill them out and give them to Roberta, and she'll call you in order. Do we want to do the presentation and then public comment, or go ahead and do public comment?
Makes sense to do the presentation, and then we'll
I
take-
agree.
I think so, yeah.
Yes. Good
Go
morning,
ahead.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Yes. So, as Mr. Burke indicated, we're here for the public hearing related to some proposed changes to our zoning regulations related to solar site design requirements. So, just as a refresher, the county continues to prohibit solar fields on agriculturally zoned property. So we're not, that's really not up for discussion. We continue to maintain that stance. However, we're all well aware that the state can preempt our local zoning through the Maryland Public Service Commission issuing a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, or CPCN. And there are several projects that are proceeding through that process. There are currently 8 projects in Carroll County that are working through the Public Service Commission process. And so our desire was to look at our site design type requirements and firm those up to make sure that it was very clear that those site design requirements apply to all projects in all zoning districts. So not only the zoning districts where we allow solar development, such as industrial, commercial, employment campus, but also if we are preempted by the state, that they would also apply to agriculturally zoned projects. So with your direction, we took the topic to the Planning and Zoning Commission, discussed options for those requirements, and worked with the Planning Commission to develop some text amendments, and they gave favorable recommendation at the September 4th meeting to bring them back to you all with recommendation. We held a work session on October 10th and went through all of them in detail with you, and we did make some revisions based on your comments, and those that revised version was provided to you and was also the version that was posted for the public hearing that's today. So just a quick summary of what these amendments are looking to do. We're trying to establish reasonable design guidelines for these facilities, regardless of the underlying zoning district. We I think, need to realize that with the state power to preempt our zoning regulations, that unreasonable guidelines will probably be preempted. So we're trying to develop guidelines that protect our citizens and do the best we can, but are not something that a solar developer would complain, as it were, to the Public Service Commission to say that we're being unreasonable. So those site design requirements are things like maximum height of the solar panels, setbacks, glare mitigation, a decommissioning plan, and so on. Just a couple of notes. Our proposed legislation encourages roof-mounted solar. I think everybody is well aware that Carroll County has one of the largest top-mounted solar projects in the nation, out in Hampstead, over 1 million square feet, and that's the appropriate use of solar generating type facilities. Also, just to clarify, there's to differentiate between accessory use and principal use. We support accessory use. If you've got a business, if you've got a farm, and you're looking to generate some power for your business, that's an allowable use as an accessory use. However, what we're primarily talking about are ground-mounted, where it's the principal use. That's the principal use of the property is solar generation for sale back into the grid and so on, and that's primarily the focus of these site regulations. So following the public hearing, we'll follow your guidance as far as the next steps. We certainly could leave the record open for another 10 days if you want an opportunity for additional written comment, and we would come back in about 2 weeks and we can have a discussion and take the next steps as you desire. Or if you wanted to close everything out today, we can have further discussion, and if you desire to amend the code, we can proceed today, but we'll follow your guidance as far as the next steps. So,
And
yes.
we'll have public comment today, and we still can not pass this, or modify it based on comments, and if we leave it open for 10 days, same thing. Where can they see the actual document?
So it's posted on our website. The county attorney's office has it posted as part of the public notification. So the draft resolution is posted on our website.
Commissioners, you want to start, or you want to hear the public comment? Yeah, public comment. So, Chris, do you have a caller?
Yes, sir. Could the caller please use *6 to unmute, and you will have 3 minutes. Please identify yourself first. Thank you.
Hi there. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Annie Wagner. I work for One Energy Renewables. I'm here to request that Westminster Solar be grandfathered from the proposed code change being discussed today. Westminster Solar is a community solar project that will bring direct financial savings to residents and businesses on their BG&E electricity bill in Carroll County. We've been working with county staff since 2021 to permit a code-compliant project in the light industrial zone by securing Planning and Zoning Commission's approval on a reduced setback, approval of a concept site development plan. We're just a few weeks away from securing final site development plan approval from all county departments for this project, all over the course of the past 3 years. This project has been wholly permitted through the county's local permitting process. This project is well sited on industrial zoned land. We're proposing a substantial vegetative screen to ensure minimal impacts to the community. And the project has met or exceeded all code requirements and successfully navigated 2 public meetings with the county with minimal public involvement. There are a lot of code changes being proposed, and if the project were not grandfathered, it would need to be entirely redesigned, resulting in many rounds of resubmittals to the county, significant added costs, and substantial time to do so. This would be extremely consequential to a project so close to construction in 2025, and it would be devastating for the project to be deemed financially infeasible after years of successful collaboration with county departments for site plan approval. We graciously ask that the Board of County Commissioners grandfather Westminster Solar to maintain a clear pathway to construction and ensure this project can be brought online in a timely manner and deliver the financial and environmental benefits to residents and businesses all across the county. Thank you for hearing my comments and considering my request on this matter. Please let me know if there are any questions. Thank you.
Chris, do you have anybody else?
That's all I have is.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just interject briefly? Because I think the previous call was regarding an industrial project. I don't think we've really had this discussion before about what they're going to be required to do and whether this ordinance is specifically addressing on ag land or the industrial projects that was just mentioned. So I don't think we spent a lot of time talking about this, but I know you're probably tracking on the issue.
Yeah, so I can clarify. So the purpose of these code changes is they would apply to every type of project in the county, including this project on
Okay.
industrial zoned
Okay.
land. So typically when these types of code changes are made, there is some consideration by the board regarding projects that are in process. There currently are 2 solar projects that are in process. The project that was mentioned, as well as a county project called Dixon Lane Solar. And both of those are on, the one mentioned is on industrial land, and the county project is on employment campus. So they're both allowed and have been progressing through the process over the past year or 2. And so the one consideration that the commissioners could consider is to grandfather those projects because they are so far along the process and not apply these new code regulations to them. But that is entirely up to the board.
Chris, would the site plan requirements for these 2 projects, wouldn't they include screening and other
Yes.
protections for the community?
Yes, so the current regulations that we have on the books, which apply to industrial zoned land and employment campus and so on, they have been complying with those, and so there are requirements that they're following. What we're trying to do here is come up with more generic requirements that cover all zoning districts, so there's to eliminate some of the confusion. So yes, these projects have been complying with all of our existing codes and are close to completion. So, but we are proposing some changes to those general regulations that would adversely impact these projects that are already in process, and that's the consideration that that the property owners and developers are asking for.
And I can just mention this to my colleagues, that, both these projects have been for planning and zoning. What was the Westminster, what was the name of that project, Chris?
Solar. Westminster Solar.
Westminster Solar. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to get it incorrect.
Tricky name.
Yeah.
Too easy. The Westminster Solar project, as Mr. Hines mentioned, is on industrial land, and it was a very pointed question that was mentioned by a number of people on planning and zoning as to the screening, what type of screening, because as we all know, that's been a serious concern regardless of where solar may or may not be placed. Obviously, it can be placed industrially. Planning and zoning, I think I can rightfully say, was very positive on what the discussion was for that property because it was being done in a much more rural, mindset, so it wouldn't be something that would stick out except, excessively or really in most cases at all. My concern here is, yes, we have these two projects that are, potentially having to go back. Obviously, they've both done their due diligence. They've gone through the process to date. And I can tell you, planning and zoning was very comfortable with where those two projects were, specifically the Westminster Solar Project being on industrial. Obviously, I think, we all have our opinions. I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we're the only county that banned solar on ag. Is that correct? To your knowledge?
To my
I'll
knowledge.
hold you to that one.
Yes,
to your
to my
knowledge,
knowledge. I'll
that's fine.
caveat that.
But, we obviously have our concerns about it, but we also, I don't think any of us are truly anti-solar. I mean, if it's on a rooftop, we've got it over at Random House. It's more or less a situation of we're being affected from the state down. So the question is, we want to have availability and ability to have involvement, but not have it pushed totally out of our hands. That was the concern and the feelings of planning and zoning. In planning and zoning, there were some changes that were modified to bring it a little closer to where we thought it wouldn't be considered unreasonable. We'd like to have the ability to have, at least from planning and zoning's perspective, some fight than just to be totally overrun on that. So for me, I'm just mentioning it this morning, I personally think that grandfathering these two would not be an issue given where they stand, and just wanted to mention that, and also the feedback for planning and zoning.
Do we have public comment here?
We do. I have 3 so far. I'm going to call Annette Fleischel first, and if the board would indulge her and another citizen, Mark Hamilton, he would like her to speak for him as well, and so extend her time some, as he has some, it would be easier for him to just allow her to speak for him. if that's
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Absolutely.
So, first, Annette, if you want to speak for yourself or for Mark, just say who you are today.
Okay, before I actually begin the talk, I'd like to publicly thank Commissioner Kyler and Commissioner Gerwin and Chris Hine also for making public comments last night at the Chapperton Solar Sunshine. We really appreciated it. You were very sincere. It meant a great deal to us, and I think it had an impact on Judge Grace, as was mentioned before. And also, Joe, since you're there, I want to thank you for your comments for the Cape Horn project.
Thank you for your comments.
Because we were both there. Okay, so now I'll begin my talk. I'm going to talk about myself first. So this is from me.
This is Annette.
Yes, this is Annette. First of all, I'm going to say thank you to our commissioners and Chris Hine for standing with us in opposition to solar facilities on our agricultural land. However, I cannot understand how you really believe that revising the state design requirements will prohibit Maryland PSC from approving the CPCN applications for those 8 proposed solar facilities. And what will the energy companies even care? Will they even care about what changes we make? A large part of my thoughts remind me of the parable we all know as David versus Goliath, where the underdog David defeats the giant Goliath with a slingshot and a rock. In my head, David is played by Ken Kyler, representing the commissioners, and Goliath becomes Westmore, the PSC, and the state of Maryland. Could David have won against such odds? Could we have stood strong against the state and just said, no, our local laws will prevail? Too bad my dream was just that, a dream, and we will never know the outcome, but I just wanted to say my thoughts. Unfortunately, we have money and power against us. Money which the solar energy company currently has with the billions of dollars in subsidies from the Green New Deal. I say currently because January 21st, 2025 might change all of that if our president-elect can dismantle this deal soon enough. I sure hope so. Power, which obviously Maryland and the PSC are exerting over we, the people of Carroll County. Here are my specific design requirements, Chris, especially for you. Setbacks. At the discussion meeting, I understood that we voted, with the commissioners voted, to be 400 feet. But the amendment, as I read it, has 200 feet. So my question was, what was the difference? And 500 feet is my choice. I think it's a reasonable deterrent. Fencing. The industry standard is 7 feet. However, I find 6 feet is also acceptable. It should identify as game-friendly. The buffer. Please increase the 35 feet to 50 feet in depth and be 80 to 100% opaque within 3 years. The major trees should be a minimum of 1 foot higher than the fences. Your requirements say fence and major trees are the same height, but that doesn't seem reasonable that they be the same height on planting. There are some omissions in the amendment. Number 1, the minimum distance between solar projects is not identified. I suggest 10 miles. Number 2, there is no maximum megawatts identified. The original ordinance said 2. The state is 5. I suggest a compromise with 3. I have a lot of statistics about the megawatt hours of each of the facilities, which I'm not going to go into detail. However, they are all 3. Solar Sunshine is 3. Pine Rock was 3. The only one that's out of the 3 parameters is Bear Branch, which is 4. Number 3, the maximum acres used for panelings, and it's not identified in the code, and I would suggest 20 acres. Again, taking a look at all the sites, there is only one site, and that is Bear Branch, that exceeds that 20 acre limit, and theirs is 27. Number 4, the acre size of property to accommodate the solar size of the field. For instance, when you put the solar site on the property, how many acres are left? And I think we just need to look at that. Most of the properties are not a problem in my mind. However, there was one property, Chaberton Beartooth, whose site plan was 13.4 acres. Property is only 21.68 acres, which means you have only 8 acres around or on the sides or wherever you put it. 6, what is the maximum number of solar projects that should be allowed in Carroll County? Can we limit the use of ag land for solar effectively? That's a tough question. 6, can we limit the number of solar panels necessary and how they are arranged? Chaberton Solar Sunshine projects 8,200 panels. That sounds like a terrific amount to me. These are only my thoughts. Good luck with this project. I know it's really tough. Thank you. I'll speak for. You want to speak?
Oh, you, okay.
Mark's going to speak for
Okay.
himself. Yay, Mark.
I want to thank all the commissioners, Chris, Mr. Burke, for supporting us in this matter and keeping the fight up. Okay, I would like just to take time, bring forth, and make you aware of many issues that I see with solar energy generating facilities being allowed within agricultural zoning districts, and hope that you'll consider adding proposed amendments to cover these situations in Carroll County due to the following concerns. Many of these proposed sites are not completely bordered by agricultural land on all 4 sides of the properties. So should these facilities be allowed to be placed in a multi-zoned area which is closely shared with residential zone properties? And this is happening or being allowed in other neighboring counties. Number 2, the description of the setbacks in the current 158, 153 draft section labeled ground-mounted accessory use only specifies setback distances from all adjoining properties. So in this case, across the road from me, where it's bordered on 3 sides, so is the county property line. I think I got my answer to this from Chris this morning. So is the county property line bordered on the one side of the site to be considered an adjoining property line with the counties? Or are the setback distances only determined from other nearby privately owned properties, which in my case happens to be the public property line across the street, across the roadway? Number 3, in comparison to other counties, how close are these solar energy generating facilities setback distances being allowed in relation to distances to other people's existing dwellings? There should be an additional setback specification increase written into a code to increase this oversight, which should supersede and increase the minimum property line setback further in situations where these facilities, solar panels are allowed to be built in close proximity within a 226-foot, 252-foot, or a 265-foot distance to the front face and door of someone's home, as in my neighbor's case, from our argument standpoint. Number 4, and speaking with Chris recently, I've had good conversations with him. In an email conversation in August, he informed me that during the past work group sessions, their recommendations were to establish a minimum setback distance 400 foot from residential use property, which I told him was a little more realistic than the 200 foot previously mentioned in 158, 153 draft. But I would like to see increase to at least 500 plus minimum or more. This is my last comment. Number 5, if the Carroll County Ordinance number 2023-04 ruling was to be overturned by the state, then should these solar site design specifications, which I consider severely lacking, need to be carefully planned and written with help from experienced, neutral, biased professionals and be finally approved by the county, and to be equally in comparison with the established codes in all other neighboring local counties who have faced the same solar site design specification issues when allowing solar generating facilities to be built within their own jurisdictions. Thank you for allowing me the time to address these issues and voice my concerns.
Thank you.
And the last card I have is Dennis Minor, I believe is.
Morning. Again, I also want to let you know I appreciate your comments last night, especially you, Michael. I mean, it was heartfelt, especially when we're in your district. And I think the judge felt that also from all of us. But I just want to let you know I appreciate it. So everything pretty much of what I was going to talk about is already talked about. My question, though, is like Mark had, the setback is from where? Is it my property line? Or is it their property line? Or your property line? So it doesn't define if it's from the other side of the road, because my property line to their property line is 102 feet, which means there's only a 98-foot setback. So it's unclear who you're defining a 200-foot setback would be. So if it is 200 feet and includes my 102 feet, then we're over 300 feet. But I agree with them. I would like to see 400 to 500. And in here it says the height to be no more than 15 feet above grade. In the meeting we had with Chaberton, they said at full tilt it could be 16 to 17 feet. So I'm not sure if that's still, maybe it's 2 feet, but still. And then only other update I would do in there, you refer to in the electrical section to meet all NEC codes, you should add the word current. I have done this many times with the Public Service Commission when I was Director of Engineering for Marriott Hotels, and specify current NEC code, because if you have NEC code, they go back to 2010, but it should read current NEC code. So I appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's it. Setbacks are from their property line.
From the developer's property line, yes.
Yeah. So what happens, my property line's the center of the road. Is the setback from then the center of the road?
In that case, it would. Now, I have seen in other jurisdictions where they specify either property line or right-of-way line, just to be absolutely clear in the scenario that has been mentioned today, where there's the developer's property line and then across the street is the neighbor's property line.
Should we make that modification?
We absolutely can do that, yes. But in your scenario, in which case there's prescriptive right-of-way for the county road and the actual property line is the middle, it would be that middle of the road
Yes.
real property
And it
line.
makes sense, it should be the edge of the right-of-way.
Yes, yeah, we can add that in, absolutely.
And I have a couple
Oh,
other.
go ahead, yeah.
the setbacks we covered. One of my concerns, and I think we need to be proactive with this, which hopefully we are, but we've got to watch. We don't want to give the state a reason to override us either. So we can't, sometimes I feel like we ought to be more restrictive, but there's a limit to what we can be, and not. I don't want the state interfering. And then my personal opinion on waivers. If you got to ask for a waiver, then this doesn't fit on your property. It's my pet peeve is access. People talk about after a certain point it could be more narrow, but what if a fire truck has to get in? What if emergency? It's granted they're not going to be in there once a week, but what if? So, and even listening to some of the applicants on these hearings, tall trees can be bought, can be planted, can survive. I've done all the above, and I get tired of hearing, well, you can't get a 15-foot tree. Yes, you can. And yes, they survive, and yes, they can be planted. I've seen, which I wouldn't advocate here, I've seen 40-foot trees replanted and be successful. So I think we've got to be as restrictive as we reasonably can be.
Well, I agree. A question about the maximum number of megawatts in a project. In and of itself, right? I mean, does determining something like that also require us to consider the size of the property, or is the maximum size of the megawatt itself dependent on the solar panels themselves? Or is it a combination of both? Because, I mean, obviously, you're going to have solar panels that are going to have a lower yield. You're going to have solar panels that are going to have a higher yield. And if you have a lower yield, there's so many you can fit on the property. But if you have higher yield for the panels, then obviously you need fewer of them.
Yeah, and technology is constantly changing, right? And so panels are becoming more efficient and so on. Currently, the general rule of thumb that we use is that 1 megawatt occupies about 5 acres. So that gives you an idea of scale. The one concern I have in thinking about some of the limitations related to limiting megawatts and limiting size and so on is that those are all placement type criteria that the state is basically preempting. So any sort of requirements that we will put into our code related to, we don't want more than a certain number, we want certain distance between them, we want to limit size and so on. My personal opinion is that all of those will be preempted by the state. Where we can provide our thoughts and hopefully the state will abide by them are the siting requirements that we're talking about today. So the amount of screening, the setbacks, and those sorts of site requirements. But anything related to where they can go, how big they can be, how many there can be, I think all of those types of requirements would be preempted by the state.
And that would include the distancing between 2 separate projects.
Yes, that's my opinion.
And then the question about acreage. I mean, I had the same question about the size of the parcel on which these could go. I suppose, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine that's also going to be determined by the setbacks, right? I mean, if you have a property that's not big enough that's conducive to the setbacks that are established, you can't do it, right?
Correct.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other thoughts or?
Commissioner Kyler talked about setbacks. Commissioner Vigliotti, you had mentioned the distance between. I don't know. I feel as though we probably should try to put a number on that. Just try, whether it's a big number or not. And I think there's been some discussion, and I did not go through the ordinance as it was proposed in detail. But is there any discussion or thought about stormwater management? Because that is such a big issue in the state. It's ironic. The state will hold up any project they want to because of stormwater management, but we're led to believe that if you put a bunch of solar panels on ag, there's no need for stormwater management and the earth isn't disturbed, and that's complete BS. If you've ever driven by a solar project anywhere, they've done a lot of grading and there's a lot of changes. So can you speak to that at all?
Yes, absolutely. So we are not addressing that in these regulations because all projects in the county, including these solar development projects, need to conform to our our stormwater management regulations. And so we don't have to address them here because they're already covered by our stormwater management code. And we do recognize that that there have been attempts at playing games as far as getting approvals of projects. We've heard the argument that solar panels, they're just the posts, and that's just the disturbance. And so if you add up all of those little tiny posts on a property, it doesn't trigger needing to do stormwater management. We know that's absolutely not true. So we follow MDE's guidelines for solar development, and MDE has their own guidelines, and so we absolutely address stormwater management. There is one item that we did put in these regulations, though, along those lines, and that is, especially on ag properties, it's very important to get the vegetation to be established underneath the panels because that helps provide the stormwater management. If you go in and say it was row crops prior to installing these facilities, you don't necessarily have good vegetation established underneath those panels. So what we're requiring is that that vegetation get established before you then come in and install the panels. That way, the vegetation is established, and it helps address runoff and erosion sediment control and stormwater management.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that for everybody who's here and listening. Second question, which may be unfair, you may have to come back to us on that, but is there any current discussion or attention to runoff abatement in the sense that I've never once gotten a sufficient answer on, we are talking about a lot of chemicals and cadmium and lead in these solar panels. So is there anything there, with the MDE or within our county that addresses the fact that if there is runoff of something other than water and it's next to a stream, which in this case it is, in the terms of Spring Valley, is there any current discussions on that, or are people not willing to make that assumption that these panels may be bad for the environment?
Yeah. I am not aware of any, and those types of regulations would typically come from the federal government, who has the ability, the resources to perform those types of studies and make those determinations and then put forth regulations. We see it with, we've had discussions about PFAS. Carroll County doesn't have the resources to understand the issues of PFAS and pass our own kind of regulations related to that. That's an EPA federal government type thing. And if there were issues related to leaching of chemicals from solar panels, that's something that the EPA would determine and pass down through the state of Maryland and then ultimately to ourselves if there was anything we had to pass ourselves.
Right. Yeah, thanks again for clarifying. And again, topic for a different day. But if any of these projects do go through near any springs or water or anything, I'm going to be advocating for the county to get in there before and after. And if we see anything in that water that wasn't there before, then whoever built that project has got a serious problem on their hands, and we're going to have to make sure of that.
Okay.
Mr. Gordon?
Well, I agree with what everybody said this morning. You were mentioning about the property line from being from the road on. I mean, is that something we want to give some more consideration on potentially, or?
I think we
Yes.
want it to be or right away.
Yeah.
Yes. Property line or right of way.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I would agree with you.
Good. Everybody, I think everybody agrees.
Yep. Yeah. Not for me.
I will, anything else, gentlemen? I'll make a motion to conclude the public hearing and keep the record open for 10 days.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Very good. We will reschedule to come back in 2 weeks and for further discussion.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kyler, I've seen the statue of David, and what a compliment that was to you. I'm having trouble picturing it, but what a compliment.
I know what he's getting for Christmas now.
Oh, my. Can we go on to the next item?
Quickly.
We have another public hearing, proposed amendments to Chapter 158, Housing, and do you want to give us your spiel again?
Yes, this is a public hearing to solicit some public comments on proposed amendments to our code, which are the result of another state mandate, of course. The process is that the hearing was advertised in the Carroll County Times on October 25th. and
Thank you, folks.
October 31st of 2024. We have two representatives from our Department of Planning. Hannah Weber is here, and Mary Lane as well, to give you a brief summary of the proposal and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Good morning. As Mr. Burke said, we're here for the public hearing. If you could go next slide. Yep. Just a quick recap. This began with last year's General Assembly, adopting HB 538, which was Governor Wes Moore's Housing Expansion and Affordability Act, which does become effective January 1st, 2025. This text amendment before you will bring our county code into conformance with the state law, which is going to go into effect. We began this with you July 25th when you agreed to send this to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their consideration. They met twice on it and gave the proposal a favorable recommendation. And then we were back before you on October 17th for you to schedule this public hearing.
Okay. Looking at the bill a little closer, it does two main things. The first one being requiring jurisdictions to allow manufactured homes and modular dwellings in any zone that allows for single-family residential homes. Manufactured and modular homes are built through fabricated construction types, constructed off-site, transported to the site, assembled, and affixed to a foundation. So the provision of this bill means that the county now has to allow manufactured homes in the Ag and Conservation District, the 4 residential districts, the C1, C2, and I1 districts when they're in a rural village, and the Employment Campus District. The county currently already considers modular dwellings as single-family, so this provision of the bill really only affects including manufactured homes. And the bill also explains and clarifies that the manufactured homes are only considered a single-family home when it's converted to real property. So that means the owner has to own the manufactured home and own the land that it's affixed to. So the other part of the bill is establishing qualified projects. There are 3 types of qualified projects in the bill. The one that could impact Carroll County, as we know, is housing projects controlled by or located on land owned by a nonprofit organization. These projects must the projects must be deed restricted to include 25% of housing units that are affordable dwelling units for a period of at least 40 years. Affordable dwelling unit is defined to mean a household earning 60% or less of the area median income. Area median income is also defined, and that is updated annually by HUD. So this table kind of lays out what these qualified housing projects developments mean and what they could include. So looking at the table, in the county's zoning code, any zoning district that allows for single-family development, the housing project, we must allow for the density to exceed the underlying density in that zoning district, and we must allow for middle housing units in that housing project development. If the county's zoning district allows for multifamily development, we must allow for a 30% density bonus. And then we also must allow any residential unit that we allow in the underlying zoning district, as well as a mixed-use development. If the county zoning district allows for commercial development, we must allow for a residential development that does not exceed the density in the R7500 residential district, and this housing project development would include a mixed-use development.
There are also several other requirements that are in the HB 538, as well as the guidelines that DHCD has given us. These include a local jurisdiction may not impose any unreasonable limitations or requirements on a qualified project. That is not defined, but they've given us examples of what that would be, and that may end up being settled by the courts, is kind of what we've been told. A local government may not require more than 2 public hearings at each step of the development review process, which really shouldn't affect us because it's at each step and not in total. It does not address or modify any other legal restrictions, including ag easements, HOA covenants, et cetera. It does not supersede other state laws, which includes our tiers law, SB, not ours, the state's tiers law, SB 236. Impact fees may still be imposed unless they impose a unreasonable limitation, and projects are still subject to stormwater, building codes, and concurrency management requirements. And that's what we have for you.
I actually got some questions last night. So, a manufactured modular home, that's not new in Carroll County, like a Keystone house that comes in 2 halves was always allowed on some locations. This is, what is this changing, and what is a mobile home? Like, if, right now, with a tenant house, that's a mobile home, not a manufactured home, correct?
Well,
And what, let me get to the question, because I'm not making sense. And what I was asked last night, my house burns down. Can I replace it with a mobile home? Is that what this is allowing? And it isn't, but can you clarify?
I believe that would be separate. I think you can do that as a temporary use. This is the difference between a mobile home, and the state made this clear, we weren't really aware of it until recently, and a manufactured home is, a mobile home is anything from before 1976 that doesn't have a HUD certification to it, which was increased building code specifications in that. So now this is requiring us to allow those manufactured homes, previously referred to as mobile homes, on any property that allows single-family homes. But the difference between now and what's being required is, well, I shouldn't say it that way. The important requirement is that it has to be on property that the person owns. So that's why we showed the pictures we showed and not what you traditionally think of as mobile homes, because they are anything post-1976, and they are on land owned by the homeowner. I'm not sure about the answer to if your house burns down, and you mean temporarily put a mobile home on it?
Yeah, temporary or permanently, either.
If it's a manufactured home that's post-1976 with the HUD certification number and it's your land, yes, you can do it. But if it's pre-1976, then I'd have to check into if that could qualify as a temporary situation.
Okay, thanks.
That was a good question.
So the, go ahead.
Do we have any callers?
No, sir.
And do we have any public comments here? Okay.
So just go back to this issue of real property. So the way it's written, that would mean that the owner of the property, how would this affect somebody who's a developer who owned all the property, who wanted to just put in mobile modular homes in an entire development? That would preclude, that they would be precluded from doing this because of the real property stipulation where the, okay, just want to make sure, okay.
No, I will make a motion to conclude the public hearing and keep the record open for 10 days.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 4, briefing discussion on Westminster annexation number 80.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm here with Hannah Weber to discuss Westminster annexation number 80. This is a request to annex land into the city of Westminster. There is no zoning waiver that's required. So Hannah will go through the specifics on the property, and we have a letter for you to sign if you're prepared to do that.
And to clarify, this, we are not making a decision today. This is information.
You can make the decision today if you'd want. We also have time scheduled for next week if you're not prepared to make the decision today. Before I get started, we have Andrea Gearhart here from the City of Westminster to answer any questions that I'm not able to answer. And then we have the property owner as well in her representation. So getting started, this annexation area is approximately 2.5 acres. It is just outside the city limits of Westminster. You can see by this blue star on the left-hand map that we kind of in like the central part of the Westminster area, and this black and gold boundary indicating that we are inside the City of Westminster's municipal growth area. On this right-hand map, you can see we are directly adjacent to the corporate limits of Westminster, which means we would not create an enclave with this annexation. So as I said, the annexation area is approximately 2.5 acres. It's currently improved with a single-family dwelling. It's my understanding that the property owner is seeking to annex the property into the city to increase their water capacity. They are seeking to subdivide this property into 5 lots, keeping this existing home and then building 4 new homes, single-family homes. Under the county zoning, it is R10,000 residential. They are seeking to be brought into the City of Westminster zoning under R10,000 as well. So because the density is the same in the county zoning and the City of Westminster zoning, there is no zoning waiver required. The annexation area was given a suburban residential designated land use in the City of Westminster's comprehensive plan, and this designated land use is consistent with the requested zoning of R10,000. The annexation area is currently in the existing water and sewer service area for the city. As I said, it's my understanding they're seeking an increase in water, which is what is kicking off this annexation. So agency comments, as we always do, we send the annexation packet out for county agency comments. We received none. The Bureau of Comp Planning, as we always do, is recommending that the annexation area be posted prior to the date of the public hearing to notify the adjoining property owners of the annexation. So for today, it can be an informational briefing or a possible decision by you all. We have time next Thursday, November 21st, for your decision, and that will be enough time to get your signatures on the comment letter over to the City of Westminster prior to their public hearing on December 9th.
Just a little information for my 3 colleagues up here. I don't know if any of you have ever been up on that part of Ridge, but that's it's a pretty large, significant historical house. That was Dr. Henry Fitzhugh's house. That was his home and office that at one point was he had planned to make that into Westminster's first hospital. And it was later owned by Dr. Vietz, if any of you know that name. So it's been a property that there's been some challenges in the Westminster area over the years. It's changed hands a few times. Not that that should have anything to do with our discussion, but wanted to give you a little background history. And it is, as they've said, right outside of city limits. For me personally, I'd like to go forward, and I move the board approve, sign, and forward the comment letter to the City of Westminster regarding Westminster annexation 80 Maryland Home Builders, LLC.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to move forward. Any more discussion or questions?
Does do you mention the city's intention in here? The city's in favor of this?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And they currently are on water and sewer service?
Correct.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any callers for public comment?
Sorry. Yeah, no, we do not.
And we have none here. So admin open.
I do have something for admin open, as I alluded to earlier today. Tim, you are welcome to correct me if I need correcting as I go through this and to add anything that I miss. So in keeping with the resolution that we're going to be considering next week of formalizing our opposition to the Piedmont Reliability Project, I want to offer for the agenda next week a resolution invoking the coordination process, or the coordination theory regarding MPRP. And basically, coordination theory is requiring federal and state governments and entities to meet with local governments to address issues, concerns, and the interests of citizens relating to federal projects like the MPRP. So basically, it is a resolution that will invoke coordination. I want to send it to FERC, to PJM, to copy every elected official that we can on it. Basically the feds may or may not respond to it or consent to it, but I want to give it a try, not least of which because, we do it on behalf of our citizens in the place that we call home. So Tim and I have been working, mainly Tim, with some input from me, but I got to give credit where it's due. We've been working on a resolution that basically cites the reasoning why we would want to call for the invocation of coordination. And I think it's a simple, straightforward thing to do, and I would like to have consent to have this on the agenda for next week.
Is that a motion?
Well, we don't need a motion to
True.
put something on the agenda.
true.
I guess my question, does anybody object to this being on the agenda?
No. I think it needs to be.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next
we,
week.
We try to get along.
Yeah.
Any
That's all from
other
me, yeah.
admin open items?
Thank you.
Agenda.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Good idea.
Good morning.
Morning, Wanda. How are you?
Okay, Monday, November 18th, Commissioner Rothstein does his town hall at 10 and 6:30. On Tuesday, Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Gordon, and Veterans Advisory Meeting, Commissioner Gordon. And we don't need this in writing, but I will not be around Monday and Tuesday, and probably not until about lunchtime on Wednesday. So I am on Wednesday going to the Board of Trustees for the community college.
You going to do it in a tuxedo?
No, I think that would be overdressed. And the Carroll County Public Library,
Wanda, you can put me down for that, for the November 20th for the library.
now, then the Potomac Edison Hunterstown Improvement Project, that's Commissioner Vigliotti.
Yep.
And then at 7 p.m. also is ESAC, which is Commissioner Garin. So, as you said earlier, we can kind of split up.
It's a 7 p.m. kind of night.
Yeah, yes, evidently. Thursday, the 21st, 8 a.m. closed admin, 9 a.m. open, Cisco SmartNet support, contract renewal, approval for submission and acceptance of award computer lab program, acceptance urban area security initiative, state and local fiscal recovery fund update, contract renewal for renovations of the family shelter at the Cove. If needed, is not needed anymore for the city of Westminster. We solved that today. Department of Planning, Solar Energy Generating Systems Ordinance.
So that won't be next week. That'll be the.
I was just say that needs to be backed up one more week because we left the
record open.
Record open, correct? So that needs to move to the following week. The housing ordinance, same thing. That needs to be moved to the following. It is needed, but not that week yet. Request for public hearing, financial assurance plan. Exercise option to purchase the Williams and Patricia Hahn property through county preservation program. Consideration of bond sale award resolution, and
And just as I say this every year, that will be fluid. We are required by the powers that bond sale be to do it within a certain period of time after the sale. So if the sale goes more quickly than we anticipate, the sale starts at 10:30 for the tax-free issues, 10:45 for the taxable issues. If for some reason all the things align and they're done at 11, we'll need to do it within a short period of time after that. So we'll just have to remain a little flexible.
okay, and so that could be later. If
Could be
everything
earlier,
works,
could be
we'll do it and order it. If not, that could be later.
Yes, that also.
And then item 13, to discuss Robert's Rules and Meetings Procedures. Public comment, agenda review, and then,
Oh, and we should also add the resolution opposing MPRP, because that'll be next week, and then the resolution for coordination against MPRP.
yep.
Yep.
And then noon is a chamber luncheon, and that could be moved, or we could be unable to attend, depending on what happens with the bond sale.
Right.
The delegation, legislative public meetings in the Reagan Room, and Garen Kyler and Vigliotti are attending.
Wanda, could
And
you,
I'd just like
come
to
into that?
explain, there was a lot of confusion last year by maybe a few people. This is not our meeting. This is a meeting that they happen to use the Reagan Room to do. So notification, agenda, none of that's got anything to do with us.
Commissioner Gordon, you were going to say something?
I just asked Wanda to add me to that, so I'll be with you all.
What's that?
I'm going to be attending as well.
Oh, okay. And fire EMS pinning ceremony at Winters Mill, Commissioner Rothstein. And on Friday, that is the inauguration at Carroll Community College, and a president's reception. And at Tonytown Elementary, there's 75th anniversary, which is Commissioner Vigliotti. And Commissioner Gordon has the podcast. Before we go into week 2, I'd like to ask you, if I'm not boring you, as Admin Open, can you tell us about the successful bond rating?
Yes, so a press release should be issued today. We were very, a small group went up to New York, made our presentation of all the good work that the county does and the fiscal conservancy. Once again, held the county in very good stead, and we were reaffirmed for all 3 AAAs by the 3 major credit rating agencies, Fitch, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's. So once again, now this is the
And we are doing a press release.
Yes, the 6th year that we've had 3 AAAs. We first got our 3rd. We'd had 2 AAAs and 2 AA from Moody's for years and years and years. And in 2018, we were successful in getting upgraded by Moody's, and we've successfully defended that grading for the last 6 years. And so, once again,
And that's just great, and I want to thank all the staff that made this happen.
Yes.
And there are a lot of things. The prep for the bond rating meetings is one thing, but it's a lot easier to do that when things are look good. And a question, I think I heard this year, like Maryland, they have, I think, the AAA, but there was a question, and we have no questions or dark spots on it, but it can be.
Mm-hmm. Usually what they do, if they start becoming concerned, they can give a negative outlook, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is sort of the first step. We'll give you your AAA, but we're not thinking your future looks too bright. Sometimes they also go the other way. You've been, let's say, a double A, and they say they have a positive outlook, which means maybe a signal that you might get a triple the next time. So luckily, no, we're staying pat. We're triple A across the board without any, as you say, blemishes.
Thank you. And I always seem to open Pandora's box. I reopened admin. We now have a public comment on the phone. I assume we want to go ahead and allow them to speak?
Sure.
Everybody's okay with that? Chris, I understand you might have a caller.
Yes, sir. I believe we have a caller on the line. If you could use *6 to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please identify yourself. Thank you.
Yes, Catherine Adelaide, late to the last party. I apologize. I just called in right after you had gone into open admin, so I appreciate you taking my phone call. Good morning, commissioners. I just do want to, right off the top, commend Commissioner Vigliotti and all those who are supporting the resolution for coordination. That was a specific constituent expressed concern to me, so I'm really happy to see everybody moving forward on it. I don't have time to take on that battle too much other than to echo my constituents' concerns. For an election integrity update, we have one more provisional ballot canvass Wednesday. Well, I'm sorry, we had the provisional ballot canvass on Wednesday, November 13th, and then we have a final ballot canvass this Friday, tomorrow, 11:15 at 10 a.m. This will be mail-in ballots, deadline of delivery by mail. In other words, what gets delivered tomorrow is what's going to be counted. And then the results will be certified and the results will be transmitted. This canvass is open to the public. I encourage everybody in the public to go and observe these canvasses. This is how ballots get counted. It is important. I think it's easy to go in so many ways. Well, we won, let's just all move on. But we do need to, follow the process right to the finish. Second big news is the MDGOP convention will be Friday, November 22nd, Saturday, November 23rd. It'll be held at the Weston BWI in Linthicum. I want to personally invite you all to attend. It's going to be a great convention. It's going to be a party. We have lots to celebrate. I believe the last day you can buy tickets will be November 19th. So I hope a few of you will mosey down Friday night. We have a cocktail reception, and it's just a great time to meet people and constituents and such. There will be a resolution in support of Israel. Finally, we've been working on that for several conventions, so that should go through. I'm proud to say that the Carroll County Republican Central Committee did pass a resolution in support of Israel at the beginning of the year, I believe. And finally, our next meeting will be Thursday, December 5th at 6:30 in the Senior Center. Thank you for all that you're doing. Just making a public comment. I get to listen to all the great things you guys are doing. I appreciate your hard work and all that you're doing. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, back to agenda review. On the following week is Thanksgiving, and it looks like other than Commissioner Guerin doing the podcast, we may not have a lot scheduled. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
Not yet, at least.
To that
I'm sure that'll change.
Commissioner Guerin, you think you'll have your podcast done by Thanksgiving?
No.
No? So,
And there's, yeah.
Oh,
Kathy's
my.
watching this right now saying, no, I won't have it done. And she's always
Mr.
reminding me to do
Vigliotti
it.
could write something up for
I should
you.
probably get you to, hey, you know what?
You
That's
might
a-
not want to say what he writes.
Yeah, that's an idea. Maybe I should just, I probably need some help with that.
Thank you, Wanda. Do we have any other business or a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, guys.